Come to item number 13, the transfer of the administration of Mangaweka. I will ask John Hutton and Mace Ward. John's not here.
John is unfortunately sick, Your Worship.
And before asking you to speak to that, Mace, I'm just going to ask Councillor Darby if he'd like to move that, and maybe Councillor Hurls to second it. I know, Councillor Darby, you've had quite a lot of direct involvement in this, so are you happy to move that way? And seconded, yep. Councillor Hurls. Thank you. So it's moved and seconded. Mace.
Thank you, Worship and Council members. The purpose of the report is to seek a decision from you for the Council to become responsible for the routine maintenance and management of Mangaweka North Head, in the same manner as the other tupuna maunga across Auckland. So the Tamaki Settlement Act has identified the aspiration for Mangaweka to come into the same arrangement that exists for other tupuna maunga, and be it managed and administered as a collective integrated group by the Tupuna Maunga Authority. This council supported the bill that set up that aspiration, except we had some concerns about the nature of deferred maintenance on assets, and that's why the formal transfer of routine management and maintenance was deferred. We've now reached a position where the Department of Conservation over the last 4 years and proposed for an additional 2 years of transition will deal with many of those maintenance issues, as well as a one-off grant of just over $400,000 so that we can, or the authority can, apply that to the assets and bring them up to a standard that meets expectations. There's an integrated management plan for tupuna maunga, and that applies to Mangaweka now. So quite an important outcome of taking on the routine management and maintenance is the authority would then be the decision maker as opposed to the Department of Conservation. It also really enables any UNESCO application for World Heritage status to be seen as an integrated whole across the treaty settlement, and realises those Māori outcomes that were the aspiration originally. The land is reserve, managed under the Reserves Act, so the public have free and open access, and would have the normal process would apply under the Reserves Act in terms of consultation for any management changes and any developments on the land. And lastly, the Devonport Takapuna Local Board considered this item last week and supported the transfer, Your Worship. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mace. I think we've got a copy of the Devonport Takapuna Local Board resolution there in support of it. We'll begin with questions. Councillor Darby, do you want to lead off with questions?
I'll just make a statement.
Okay. Any? If there are no questions, we'll maybe... Oh, sorry, there is a question. Councillor Fletcher.
Having followed this since the inception of the Maunga Authority, I just want the assurance that we are not letting the Department of Conservation off the hook with regards operational costs on a regular basis.
That's correct, Councillor Fletcher. So we have leveraged as much as we can from the Department of Conservation to get those assets up to a standard, as well as the one-off grant payment.
Thank you.
To achieve that.
That was the question that had to be asked.
Is there a gap?
Right. Councillor Deputy Mayor Cashmore?
No, I was just asking, is there a gap? And I'm getting the shake that he didn't know. They've covered it all off, so thanks.
Okay. Negotiations taken a while.
Yeah.
It has, and it's probably been pretty
Very
tortuous.
Successful.
Okay, I think we'll move to comments and ask Councillor Darby, as the mover of the resolution, to start off.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks to the staff for, I think, resolving this. It's been a while. There has been an impasse for some time, and it's running into years. And of course, the treaty settlement was made some time ago, 2014. So here we are 4 years later, and we're finally resolving one last part of the puzzle of that settlement. And I think this is going to be an important decision for the Tupuna Taonga o Tamaki Makaurau Trust. and its members. They will be watching this decision with keen ears and eyes, because it is culturally extremely important that this be transferred in terms of maintenance. Of course, they already own it, as they do the other maunga. Now it is to be 14 of 14 rather than 13 of 14 in the management and administration of the Tupuna Maunga Authority, representing the owners and all the other people of Auckland, and it is important. One thing I think I just do want to reiterate is that these are actually owned by the treaty settlement partners. These are not owned by the people of Auckland, but they are governed on behalf of the people of Auckland and the owners equally. And having been there with Councillor Fletcher in the inaugural one, we never had a single decision that was not made without consensus. It is the only group that I've ever sat on in my long period of being on local government where every decision, and there's a lot of them, and some require a lot of inquiry and interrogation, you will eventually arrive with all members voting in favour. It's quite remarkable. I do want to acknowledge the new Minister, the Honourable Eugenie Sage, who I wrote to. You can see the correspondence attached in December after she came into office, inviting her to reignite the conversation about maintenance, and I'm delighted that we've landed on this outcome. It brings forward in some ways that application for World Heritage status. Of course, we've got the integrated management plan in place for Mangawika already, so the whole maintenance and attendance that is required for this maunga, there's not a lot more planning to be done. That is in place. There's a nice transfer in time. Can I just look at that number? Way back, I think the former council, we were pretty aghast at chipping in or covering $1.1 million. It looks like we've backtracked and we've accepted 409,000, which is a long way short of that. But when you calculate the 2 years of maintenance to be paid for, that's 240,000, and then the 1,500 hours in kind, and if I just conservatively value those at $100 an hour, I know our parks people are charged out for resource consents a bit more than that, I think, but that's another 300,000. So that is coming up to 949,000 of value that we get conveyed to council in some way, and then of course we convey that through budgets through to the Maunga Authority. So really want to commend our staff for resolving this, the Minister and the Department of Conservation for being party to this and being determined to address this last part of the puzzle. And I understand it now goes, our decision goes to the Minister, and then the Minister relays that to the Governor-General, and then there's an order in council, and the administration is formally transferred, and I don't think that's probably too far away. So thank you, Mayor, thank you, staff, thank you to the Ministry of Conservation.
Thank you, Councillor. I don't think there are any other there is, sorry, Councillor Filipaina.
Thank you, Your Worship, and as the Deputy Chair of Tupuna Maunga Authority, can I also acknowledge the current members there, local board, governing body, DOC, mana whenua, but in particular the Chair of the Tupuna Maunga Authority, because he's led us through this process as well, and it's good to see the end of that particular process. Now, Councillor Darby spoke about by consensus, and I remember Councillor Casey at one particular meeting asked that, you know, we should have an odd number because, you know, just in case. But the chair said that, no, look, we do all our decisions by consensus. So, you know, I just acknowledge the chair, but all our members. And Your Worship, again, it was just with our staff as well from the Tupuna Maunga Authority. I want to acknowledge them. As Councillor Darby, and I know I'm repeating some of the stuff, but I think it's important that I do. And around that management plan. You know, I mean, look, it's been put in place with the hope that this is exactly what happens, and we now are at the day where it does. One more thing, and Councillor Darby mentioned it, and this is something that Councillor Casey has pushed at the Tupuna Maunga Authority, and that is World Heritage status. Because it does. It enhances the application with UNESCO. So I want to acknowledge again everybody, our staff who are here, and thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Hills.
Thank you, Mayor Goff. It's just quickly, yeah, I think this is fantastic work, and thank you to everyone who's worked on it. I think it's a great way forward, and it will settle things down a bit. I also want to thank the Maunga Authority and everyone who's been involved from a council and iwi perspective. You know, these Maungareka and Takaronga are just amazing places. If any of you around the table have not actually been up on a day like this, take the ferry over and go walk up and have a look. It's just pretty amazing place to be. I went up in the weekend again because I've been kind of watching with the back and forth discussions we've had around access to vehicles up Takaronga, and I went up and I counted, because I was a bit geeky about it, over 100 people up there. There was one car, someone had used I saw the people use the code to get through who weren't able to walk up, but there was over 100 people up there, and I talked to a lot of people, and they were saying that they've never felt as comfortable up here as they do now. There was kids running around, there was a young man in a wheelchair whose mother's contacted me on Facebook, and she said he never ever was able to go up the Maunga on his own before because it was too dangerous with all the cars coming up and down. He goes up on his own in his motorised wheelchair. Every weekend now on a sunny day he's at the Wilson, it's with the Wilson home up the road, so they are able to bring him down to the place. But he says it's given him independence that he never had before. So it was quite significant on Saturday going up and actually seeing so many more people where the cars used to be, basically. So although we hear a lot, and I know that some councillors were a bit shocked at some of the discussion that was happened at a recent meeting, but I think that, change is difficult for people, and yes, there'll be issues, but I think overall the decisions that are being made and the work that's being done on our Maunga to save them for people and birds, there's a lot more birds up there now, I just think is actually on the ground is pretty significant. So I want to thank, I've never been involved with any of those decisions, but I just want to thank everyone who has been, and this is another step forward for our area at least, but also for Tāmaki Makaurau as a whole. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. Declare it carried. Thanks very much to Phil and Mace.